Yeah, so we were talking about truckers' condition, drivers' condition. We hear them parked on the side of the road, or somebody is going the wrong side of the road, killing off people regularly. All that we've been hearing about. What is the actual condition of this? Do these guys get a break to be with their family, or like they say, there are other things happening to them?
Normally, the pattern, especially for somebody like us, see if it's a trucker owned vehicle, as in the driver itself owns the vehicle, and that's about 75% of the transport industry
Really?
in India.
Oh,
They're all single vehicle owners. A worst case scenario, let's say he's got a son drives one vehicle and he drives one vehicle. So what happens typically, then they try to pick loads which go between their hometowns or whatever, which means then they take a day off at that point of time. But for us, we have a lot of drivers from the north and especially from the districts, southern districts in Tamil Nadu. These guys typically will work for about 60 days to 90 days continuously, and then they take a
and
month
they
off.
work in dangerous conditions. I mean, just to make money, do they just keep on driving and you don't enforce any stop and park, sleep?
We are not able to enforce. We do have strict rules in the company, but that's why I said it's very difficult to enforce because
All you need to do is put a camera into the thing and watch what he's doing.
my first time when I put GPS, a guy took a bucket of water and poured it on the GPS.
He was cleaning the GPS for you.
He said it was raining very heavily and the cabin leaked and the entire system went for a 6.
So you knew what he did.
Yes, of course. And now what happens is it's at the end of the day it's demand and supply. If we are desperate for drivers, we put up with more of their nonsense.
That's it.
If they are desperate for a job, they accept a lot of what our conditions are.
Okay.
At this point of time, unfortunately, we're at the receiving end.
Okay, we also hear about so much of them, truckers being responsible for spreading HIV, spreading syphilis, gonorrhea, and every other kind of sexual disease. What is the real story on this?
It's completely true. See,
It is.
there are pockets, there are areas on each of the highways that are typically known for this prostitution.
Okay.
For example, on the southern highway, there's this place called Vrindavan,
Okay.
which is a breeding ground for this.
Okay, all you guys looking out for some sex action, don't listen to this that carefully. I mean, he's just giving you some idea.
But I had a very funny incident about 4 years back. There's this place called Chiliklurpet, which is on the highway just between Ongole and Nellore, on
Okay.
the NH5 going towards Calcutta, whichever. So when the new road from Ongole was actually built to Hyderabad, I instructed the driver that they're not supposed to go to Guntur, which means they don't go past Chiliklurpet.
Okay.
And we were obviously monitoring them on the GPS. So the first 2 trips, despite me telling them, they said, sir, there's a railway overbridge, so I can't go that road. I have to go via Guntur and all that. So then I started fining them. I said, if you're going to go Guntur, I'm going to take away 500 rupees from the trip allowance that you get. So this one trip, I saw about 3 trucks parked at Ongole for almost about 6 hours. And I didn't really understand what
And you were just watching them on GPS.
Yes, because the vehicles made an unscheduled stop. So after these guys came back, when I actually questioned them, one more straightforward driver, he said, no sir, we parked the bus in Ongole, parked the truck in Ongole, took a bus to Chiliklurpet, did our activity, came back.
Okay.
Because they didn't want the GPS to track them going to Chiliklurpet.
All right.
But the point is to come back to the reality, they're away from home. Maybe, like I said, 30, 60 days, especially if they're married or if they're of that age where the sexual activity is required for them.
So
They're
go.
actually going to go.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that we can do is actually profess to them about safe sex, right?
Okay.
But today the situation is bad because again illiteracy comes into it. While we can tell them, why we insist that condoms have to be a part of the first aid box or whatever, whether they're actually going to accept it over the mental block and then use a condom is something that's not in our control. The other side of it is actually to educate the prostitutes on that side to ensure that these guys are not.
In fact, or
they are wearing a condom. But technically, I think with education levels improving, this problem slowly should reduce.
So you see an actual change? Do
Yes,
NGOs
yes.
come to you and say, we
Yes,
want to talk to your
we've had actually 2 awareness drives by NGOs. But I think the situation is improving, whether it's because of the use of condoms or lesser sexual activity, I don't know. But there was a time in Namakkal, which is a huge transport hub in Tamil Nadu, where no family would give a daughter in marriage to a truck driver. And it became a big problem, which actually started the shortage of drivers. Guys were not willing to join the profession because if they did join it, they would get this tag or this stigma of being a truckie. The chances of him contracting some sexual disease and therefore not being able to get married. That has, I think, now kind of come down. It's not so bad as it was about 4 years back.
Namakkal folks say, okay, there are,
Yes,
we can live with it.
more of them are getting married, let's put it that way.
Okay, so now when you come back to the modern day road, you said something very intriguing, which is that it has really made no difference to your life. The old crappy roads as compared to the modern sleek highways.
That's not true. I mean, those of us doing a lot of driving, highway driving, we see The
No, I mean
average
in the
speeds.
trucking business, whether the trucks are moving faster and therefore
Yeah,
consumers.
the trucks do move faster, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a double-edged sword. That it goes back to the engine capacity. See, what happens is because they're such low-powered engines, they're also optimized to run at 40, 45 kilometers an hour for the best fuel efficiency.
Okay.
Versus a Volvo that can run at 75 kilometers an hour with the best fuel efficiency. So what happens is when these guys are doing 60, 70 on a road that's reasonably empty, the mileage does drop, fuel mileage does drop.
Okay.
And they're doing 60 and 70 to make up time because they're actually taking unscheduled breaks. Okay. Now, even in the cases where the fuel mileage would have improved because the government professes that, which is why there's tolls, they say you brake less and accelerate less so you save fuel, fair enough, but that goes away in what we call transactional cost, or we include it, which is some amount of siphoning of fuel from the vehicle.
Okay.
So, in reality, for a transporter, every rupee I'm paying as toll is an additional cost for me. I don't have any fuel savings, but I do have a time saving. And even
Don't you have savings on wear and tear?
tires. The tire is the only real wear and tear, but not such a big difference.
No.
Because the logic is if he was on a bad road, not the roads were never bad, but they were narrow. If he continued doing 40 kilometers an hour and he would never exceed that 40 kilometers an hour because he would keep it steady, his braking amount would be the same as now. When he gets to 70, he may be catching a truck in front of him which is slower, quicker, and therefore braking again.
Okay.
So, of course, we have a long way to go. I mean, the new truck manufacturers like Navistar, Bharat-Benz,
the
Mind,
Leylands and this one, that.
They
Volvos.
are actually offering some amount of driver training when they are selling us the vehicles. But even though Leyland and Tata say they have driver training programs, typically the impact on the drivers is not much because the Leyland is considered a known and used product.
Okay.
So my driver with 25 years experience will actually go and teach the Leyland guy, or at least thinks he can teach the Leyland guy rather than vice versa.
Okay.
But if I'm buying him a Navistar or an MAN,
Then he's prepared
not
to-
familiar with the truck.
Okay,
So
he's
he's
prepared
then
to
willing
listen.
to listen. Exactly.
Okay. So do you see that the changing of fleets and becoming younger fleet is part of the business, or you will continue to go with the old and make them run as long as they can?
No. Actually, we have some reasonably non-traditional transport policies. We don't run a vehicle for more than 8 years.
And what do you do with it after 8
We
years?
sell it.
Okay, so you stick it on somebody else's head.
No, the thing is, it finds its way to the junkyard at some point of time. But you're right. There are guys using trucks that are as old
Yeah,
as
I've
I
seen
am.
some real World War II veterans.
I won't reveal my age, but there are trucks as old as I am for sure. But the thing is that we have always experimented, whether it was synthetic oil, whether it was radial tires, we tried it. And honestly speaking, I have had partial success somewhere. I have learned partial failure, so we have gone away. Synthetic oil, for example, has never helped me, but
Okay.
radial tires did help me. So the same way we were the first to buy MANs here in Tamil Nadu, we have tried Navistars, we have actually bought Bharat-Benz now. And honestly speaking, I think at some point in time, people will be forced to move to it. It's not a question of whether we'll want to move to it.
All right, folks. So you heard it from Deepak. He says innovation and progress will come in whether the owners like it or not. So thanks a lot, Deepak, for being with us. It was lovely talking to you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.